Hello, book lovers, and thanks for listening. I post new chapters every week. If you like my work, please remember to like and subscribe to help me build my channel. The Stillwater Girls by Minka Kent. Narrated by Jennifer Schafer. Chapter 4. Nicolette.
I thought I was supposed to be the nervous one tonight.
Brant places his hand on the small of my back and hands me a champagne flute. Offering a hesitant smile, I begin to respond, but he's ushered away by some man in a three-piece suit and a woman in head-to-toe diamonds and a Givenchy. Everyone here tonight is a buyer, a dealer, or a faithful lover of the photographic arts. And one person here tonight, I presume, is a lover of my husband. Nicolette? My God, it's been forever! An old colleague of mine from the Berkshire Gallery years ago strides towards me, placing her hand on my arm and kissing the air beside my left cheek. Her name doesn't come to me immediately because I knew her a lifetime ago, and only briefly. I hadn't worked there very long when a handsome photographer came in for a meeting with the director and left with my personal cell number and the promise of drinks the following Friday. M. Her name starts with an M. Mariah, Marie, Marin, that's it. Marin, I say, recycling the same manufactured excitement I've been using all evening. So lovely to see you. Glad you could make it. Her manicured hand splays across her freckled décolletage. Brant Gideon and the Bell House Museum? Are you kidding me? I wouldn't have missed this for the world. This is huge. I remember when he was just starting out, hottest starving artist I'd ever laid eyes on, and then you just had to walk in and steal him from me. Marin bats my arm. You know I'm kidding, she says, head tilted as her smile fades. You two are disgustingly perfect for each other, and I couldn't be happier for you. Anyway, heard you two left the city. Where are you these days? I sip my champagne, letting the bubbles tickle my throat before I answer. Upstate. Marin studies me, her busy eyes narrowing. Huh, didn't really expect that. Lifting a brow, I ask, Really? She shrugs. I just figured it'd be someplace a little more exotic, given his profession. We travel, but he likes the solitude, I say, when he's not shooting. But do you? I hesitate. Her question is a bit invasive, considering she hasn't seen me since I was 22. I'm sorry, she says, waving her hand. I remember when we worked together and you always said you wanted an apartment overlooking Central Park. I believe you said you were born and raised in the city and you were going to die here too. Yes, I did say that. I'd completely forgotten. I smirk, raising my flute. They say if you want to make God laugh, just tell him your plans, right? Marin chuckles, though I didn't think my comment was that funny. And then I catch her glance towards my husband. Anyway, I should make my rounds, she says, swatting my wrist. I'm only here to network and to oogle your husband. Marin winks before she struts away, and I begin to recall her odd sense of humor and the fact that I never could tell when she was serious and when she was joking. I let it go. Marin's hardly a threat. She isn't his type in the least. She was always loud, and she name-dropped in nearly every conversation I ever had with her. Brant was never about status and social climbing. That's what I loved about him when we first met. He genuinely had no idea who my parents were, and that placed him a notch above every other man I'd ever met. Standing in a room of recognizable strangers, a veritable who's who of the Manhattan art scene, I watch as every eye manages to land on my husband, who steps out of his introverted shell and dons the charismatic suit of a larger-than-life artistic visionary. People circle around him, clinging to his every word, as if he's sharing the most fascinating things they've ever heard. He gifts them with warm smiles and the occasional handshake, and he leads a group of them around, elaborating on his inspiration behind his Lost in Nature series, the passion project he's been working on since we moved away from the city. This is his life's work, and it's inventive and breathtaking. I just didn't think it was going to be almost a decade in the making. Scanning the room, I find a portrait he took of me, standing barefoot in a brook, the sunrise kissing the top of my head as I gather my sheer dress in my hand. A woman in a slinky black number saunters up to it, alone, a glass of red wine in her hand, and a diamond tennis bracelet hanging from her left wrist. She studies my photo. I study her. The woman lingers in front of the picture a little longer, before strutting towards the next one, an eerie photo of a forest clearing at dawn. But she doesn't stay there long before moving to the next, and the next. But after a few minutes, she returns to the one of me. I'm glued. I couldn't look away from her if I tried. Is she the one? Is this the woman my husband was seeing? The woman he might have fathered a child with? Is she scoping me out the way a mistress would compare herself to her lover's wife? Her onyx hair creates a shiny curtain, hiding part of her face, the ends cut blunt. She's stunning in a serious, intelligent, upper-class New York kind of way, oozing elegance and grace from every angle. I'm not sure how long I've been watching her study my photograph, but my heart slams on the floor and my blood runs cold when I spot my husband approaching her. She smiles the second they lock eyes, and he leans in, kissing the space between her mouth and cheek, not just the air beside it. He touches her bare arm as they speak, and his eyes are wide and expressive with every word. It's as if no one exists but her. He's absolutely besotted, and I recognize the look she's giving him. It's the very same look I gave him when I was a young butterfly, thrilled to be caught in his net. A couple of guests squeeze past them, forcing Brent to step closer to the woman to let them pass. He doesn't move back, though. He just stays, comfortable in her personal space like he knows her well. The champagne bubbles in my stomach become unsettled, and I glance around for the nearest ladies' room in case I'm going to be sick. Brant is charming, I'll give him that, and he's warm and personable, but of all the exhibits and gallery openings and book signings we've attended, I've never seen him behave with anyone the way he's behaving with this woman. I swear his dimples grow deeper by the second, and there's a distinct twinkle in his sea-green eyes, so noticeable I can see it from all the way over here. You okay? A warm palm finds my shoulder, and I glance over to see Marin standing next to me. You look like you're going to be sick. I force a smile and shake my head. The champagne, I don't think it's agreeing with me. Her brows rise and she laughs through her nose. Sweetie, it's Cristal. Cristal agrees with everyone. Sure you're okay? Brant and the woman are still lost in their little conversation, though at this point they might as well be lost in their own little world. My blood, which was ice cold a moment ago, is now hot, burning beneath the surface of my skin. If I wasn't a proper lady, I'd have half a mind to capture his attention and ask him what the hell is going on. But I won't do that here. I won't make a scene in front of the people who could make or break the future of the career he's worked for his entire life. Marin follows my gaze, quickly piecing together the thing I refuse to say out loud. That woman with the dark hair? Marin nods in her direction. She's a photographer. Her style is pretty similar to Brant's. I think she's just a huge fan. Comes into Berkshire all the time trying to get us to broker her work. What's her name? This might be my one and only chance to find out. Clara Brias, she says. I burn the name into my mind, silently reciting it dozens of times in case I ever need to know it in the future. She was staring at my picture earlier, I say, though I'm not sure why I'm admitting this to Marin, or if it even means anything. Breathing life into that observation makes it seem like a silly thing to get worked up about. Marin chuckles. She probably thinks you're beautiful. In the quiet of my mind, I write off her explanation as too simplistic and optimistic to quell my concern. She dates women, Marin adds. And only women. Anyway, here comes trouble. She moved back into the crowd. I glanced past her to find my husband headed in my direction.
You doing okay?
He asks when he arrives at my side. I choke on the familiar cologne that invades my lungs, the same sensual woodsy cologne that once brought me comfort because it smelled like home. Smiling, I offer a quick nod because I'm more okay than I was 5 minutes ago. Of course. You?
Of course.
My husband examines me.
If you're not feeling well, just say so.
He says,
We'll leave right away.
Don't be ridiculous. This is your night, and I'm fine. I lie. Brent's face lights, though not half as brightly as it lit for Clara. At least I know now that he's not her type.
You know, this night is beautiful, and it's been a long time coming,
He says.
but I can't stop thinking about how the most exquisite thing in this room is standing right here in front of me.
He leans in, his lips grazing mine, as his fingers lightly trace the side of my cheek.
You're not just my muse,
He says.
you're my everything. None of this would have been possible without you.
A year ago, I'd have believed him, as I always have. But after finding the photograph of a tow-headed little girl with Brant's sea-green eyes hiding beneath the leather organizer tray of his sock drawer last month, I don't know that I can. Brant kisses me once more before dragging the tips of his fingers down my arm and stopping to give my hand a squeeze.
Moffat just walked in, and his pockets are looking a little heavy. Should probably say hello.
He smiles at me, expecting a knowing chuckle, which I force myself to give him, and my chest tightens. Extending his bent arm, he nods.
Come with me. I'll introduce you.
I've spent the majority of my adult life following this man through Moroccan souks and over Grecian cliffs, through the ancient Mayan ruins and lush Amazonian paradises. I left Manhattan, the only home I'd ever known, because he asked me to. And then I made us our own little domestic nirvana in his depressing, hole-in-the-wall hometown of Stillwater Hills, New York, ignoring the gnawing homesickness that never quite passed. I cooked his favorite gourmet meals each night and learned to like his beloved jazz standards. I made love to him when I sensed he needed a release, even if I wasn't exactly in the mood myself. I brought him coffee when he pulled all-nighters, and I massaged his shoulders when he'd spent too many hours hunched over his computer, knee-deep in edits. But the one and only thing I could never give him was a family. It kills me that someone else may have. Slinking my arm into his and burying my unease, I feel like a fraud as he introduces me to real estate mogul Robert Moffat and his stunning young wife, pedigreed and pregnant socialite Temple Rothschild Moffat, who clearly hasn't let her third trimester keep her from dressing in head-to-toe Versace in 6-inch stilettos. Brant and Robert's conversation fades to the background, and Temple excuses herself as I scan the gallery once more, my gaze landing on every pretty face in the room. The cigarette-thin blonde with the faux fur stole, the bookish brunette with the red-painted lips and clear-framed glasses, the lavender-haired socialite who steals glances at my husband when she thinks no one's watching. It could be any of them. And it could be none of them at all. The only thing I know for sure is that needing to know exactly who she is beginning to consume my every thought. Brant's hand slips to the small of my back, and he pulls me closer. The room spins, my breath shortens, and a prickle of sweat collects across my brow. Excuse me, I say, interrupting their conversation and showing myself outside. I've never had a panic attack before, but I'm quite certain I'm standing at the water's edge of my first one. It's mid-December, and the sidewalks are dusted with powdery snow. A few nearby shops are closed for the evening, but their holiday lights flicker in the windows, and holly wreaths hang on their glass doors. These things used to send a blanket of warmth cascading through me when I'd see them. Now I feel nothing. Gasping for air, I close my eyes and try to focus on the sensation of the chilled air in my lungs. And then I count backwards from 10. telling myself that when I get to 1, I'm going to be fine, at least for now. 10, 9, 8, 7.
Nicolette,
I open my eyes to find my husband standing outside the door to the museum, his hands shoved in the pockets of his Prada suit. The casualness in his pose is an insult.
Nicolette, talk to me,
He says, before he strides toward me, head cocked ever so slightly. He looks at me like I'm an impossible riddle he can't quite solve.
You're not you. You haven't been all night.
My lips part in response, but I don't know what to tell him. I'm still trying to figure out where to go from here, when to confront him, how to confront him, not to mention how I'm supposed to feel given the fact that I've conjured up some worst-case scenario over a single photograph. Brant wraps his arms around me, the warmth of his body and heaviness of his hold equally comforting and suffocating. If you don't mind, I say, my voice muffled against his pristine suit jacket. I'm going to catch a cab back to the hotel. I think I'm coming down with something. He pulls away, and his eyes rest on mine. Again, he doesn't believe me, but at this point I don't care. All I can think about is peeling myself out of this dress, yanking the bobby pins from my hair, and washing the makeup from my face before tears have a chance to ruin it. Everything else I can deal with another time, when I haven't had 3 glasses of champagne and unraveled myself all because a beautiful woman was staring at my photo for too long, and then my husband greeted her with his signature dimpled smile and sparkling green gaze. Brant peers over my shoulder towards a set of oncoming headlights and lifts his arm to hail the taxi.
Get some rest,
He says, gathering the train of my dress and helping me in. Closing the door, he motions for me to lower the window.
I'll have my phone on if you need anything.
I appreciate his concern, but I can't deny the tiniest voice in the back of my head telling me how strange it is for him to send me off without a second thought. Taking my hand from his, I give him a small wave, catching the glint of his eye as they reflect in the full moon above. Once upon a time, those eyes felt like home every time I looked into them. Now all I see is that little girl. End of chapter 4.